everybody.
Hi.
Hello. We're everybody.
You're everybody. Thanks for recording my podcast with me.
Of course.
Can you introduce yourselves?
Oh. Sorry, Mom messaged us. And I thought it was one of you and I was confused. So I am Meredith. I am Mallory's eldest sister.
Uh-huh.
I am a mother of two, and I'm a stay-at-home mom. I volunteer a whole lot, and I model for SmartGlamour.
I am Stefanie. I'm also Mallory's sister. Little one. I have a couple jobs to do with volleyball specifically, but I am the head women's volleyball coach, senior woman administrator at Bard College. I also own and run a youth volleyball club called New York Elite Volleyball, which caters to basically 18 and under boys and girls in the Hudson Valley.
Yay. So, Meredith, you said you're a model, and Stephanie, you didn't say you're a model. I
will say it's not something I typically lead with, but seeing as we are on a SmartGlamour podcast, it made sense to mention it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so pertaining to SmartGlamour, I take pictures of myself.
So still not a model then.
I model for SmartGlamour. Am I a model?
I don't know, are you?
I don't know. I model for SmartGlamour.
Oh, well, it sounds like you're a model to me then.
But
Meredith,
if I play the piano sometimes, am I a pianist?
this is the question. I have this conversation with lots of people on this podcast. All these smart
I don't know.
Everyone gives me different answers. It's very interesting. That's why I ask.
Yeah, Meredith, if you coach your son's soccer team, are you a soccer coach?
I at this point I say I'm a soccer coach, even though I don't know anything about soccer. That's not true. I've learned a little bit I'm learning at the same rate as him, right? So I've learned some stuff about soccer. And I will say that I am an amateur soccer coach.
Okay.
I would never presume to say that I am a coach at your level.
I guess it's probably a good idea to have at least the same amount of knowledge about the sport as the children.
So
to me, it's like, I really hope you have more.
I also, you know how there's that stupid saying, those that can't do, teach?
Yeah.
So I know a little bit more about general athleticism than the kids, but I am incapable of demonstrating it to them.
Well, that's fine. You don't have to be a good demonstrator to be a good coach.
We did a passing drill because my head coach said, go do a passing drill. We had an uneven number of players.
Oh, you're not the head coach.
No, I'm the assistant coach.
I didn't know that.
And I put assistant coach when I say I am an assistant soccer coach and an assistant baseball coach, apparently. But that's new.
All right. So away from coaching.
What?
We can go back to coaching when I talk to you specifically, Stephanie, but away from coaching in general. Back to modeling. So Meredith, I know that when we talk about you being a model, you usually give me or say a line about all the other things that you model. So is that not one of the things, well, tell us what that is, and then is that not in your mind when I ask you that question?
So it is. So if somebody were to come up to me and say, are you a model? I would say, yes. Not only do I model clothes for my sister's fashion line, but I also model ethical behavior and, being kind to others and just, generally lead by example. So in that way, I think of myself as a model also. And that comes from being a mother and a heavy in volunteering at the school. So I'm just often in charge of children in general. So I think of modeling that way also. But if someone came up to me and said, "What do you do?"
Right.
I do not jump to, "I'm a model." I jump to, I list other things first. But then if it comes up in conversation, I would totally own it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And I mean, the conversation actually, Stefanie, that you brought up, reminds me a lot of what Katie Bishop's answer was about, is she a model? She was like, while I'm in the act of modeling, sure, I'm a model. And then she compared it actually to acting, but she said it like, oh, if I'm in a play and I'm playing Juliet, while I'm in the play, I'm Juliet, but while I'm outside of the play, I'm not. And I was like, well, but to me, that's actually more like being an actor. And if you're an actor, aren't you an actor all the time, whether or not you're doing it? And that was kind of the end of like hit a dead end there. But I mean, is that more how you feel about it? That if like we were at a photo shoot, you would say I'm modeling right now, but
I have no problem saying I'm modeling.
Mm-hmm.
I just, it's more of a verb and an action to me than it is part of my identity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think even when I'm in the act of modeling, I'm the most, I mean, not the most awkward, but like I, am a little weird at photo shoots because I'm uncomfortable. But so even in the moment, if you asked me if you were a model,
mm-hmm.
I think I would say no, but I would be like, yeah, I'm modeling.
That's fair. I mean, and Meredith has modeled for SmartGlamour many more times than you also. But so here's a question then. If while you're modeling, you feel uncomfortable, why do you volunteer to do it?
A good question.
Because I don't make either of you do this.
No.
Let's just say that.
No, I do it because I like the spotlight. I don't know why Stefanie does it.
I don't know why.
Well, okay, so you both just modeled for the spring collection that just came out, which you shot virtually. But I post in a little group and I say, who wants to do this? And Stefanie, you were like, I would like to do this. So what was your, why did you decide you want to do it? I
do enjoy doing it. And I also see a lot of value in doing things that are outside of your comfort zone, right? So I think this is one of those things. And I enjoy it. And it was kind of a fun thing with Rosalind too, my daughter. So she was outside with me. And although I took most of the pictures, like she was part of the process. And so it was kind of a fun thing to do with her. And like I said, I just think I try to do things outside of my comfort zone on a somewhat regular basis when my schedule allows. And I think there's a lot of value to that. I think it helps you grow as a person and kind of just expand your boundaries. And so I think there's value to it, and I do enjoy it. It's just.
Do you think it's a good thing for her to witness you doing?
Who's the one asking the questions here?
I'm just.
Question.
Why can't I ask a question?
Question aloud.
I do. I definitely do. Because I think, in the way that you mentioned that you're, a model and you role model things for your children. Obviously, I am also for her. I'm very conscious of the way that I talk about my body around her or don't. And I think it's a positive image for her to see me uncomfortable or comfortable, taking pictures that I'm willing to, share. And
yeah. Wait till she's a preteen and starts to become aware of herself.
Sure.
And she takes the pictures.
Hey, my daughter did a great job taking pictures of me.
She did. That's what I'm saying.
She did fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my point. That she
When
could take the pictures.
When we were done, she was done. She was like, okay, can we go home now?
Yeah.
But she was happy to do it. And she, you know, I had to direct her and tell her where to stand, but
Yeah, she did a really good job.
she does better than my husband, which is why she does it.
And Stefanie, I feel like when you say that you feel uncomfortable or awkward at shoots, and then you kind of laugh, like that's supposed to be something that I agree with. I think that when we're at shoots in person, you don't seem awkward until you start going, oh, I'm awkward. But like up until that moment, you seem completely normal like everyone else. So I think it's just like, it's more in your head and you're like worried about being awkward. So then you like break and you're like, oh, gonna be awkward now. Like, you were being awkward until now. Right now you're being awkward.
You know.
But there's a few other people that do that too,
Yeah,
to me.
I'm sure.
You know.
Sure there are.
So what was both of your thoughts or impressions when I said I was gonna start SmartGlamour, or had an idea for it? I don't even remember what conversations we may have had when that happened.
That was over 8 years ago.
It wasn't over 8 years ago. It was 7 years ago.
It was, oh yeah, I guess it was after my son was born.
Or what do you remember
But still.
from it being started? Like, I mean, you both came to the first show. Like, what thoughts did you have in general about any of it?
You know, it's weird for me. I'm thinking as I'm sitting here kind of ruminating over the question, it's like, I can't pinpoint the moment when you started it, because to me, you've just always been a fashion designer and you've always, you know, fought for everyone, and you've always had this inclusive and creative mind. And so when, like, I really can't think of the moment when you started SmartGlamour or when you told us you were going to do this thing, because it just,
yeah, it just felt like the next natural step for you. Like it didn't really, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, what is this weird thing it just felt natural progression, you know? And I thought it was great, and I thought it was a great idea, and I was, you know, psyched to support you, obviously. Yeah. So, but yeah, I agree. It was just kind of like, I don't know, you started it when you were 0, because it's kind of, right?
I guess. I don't know. That's interesting to me.
It didn't have a name or a concrete concept, but it's just based on you. So,
and even when you talk about the name, you know, SmartGlamour, you founded the actual business, but that term had always been something that you kind of used in different ways. So even the name wasn't new. It was
my AIM screen name.
Right.
Which I came up with the name while I was at FIT because I had to do a project in like my one and only, almost kind of tangentially a business class there. And we had to come up with a brand, and that was the name that I came up with. And then I, for whatever reason, decided to make it my screen name because I liked it. And then I just held on to it. So then when I started the company, I was like, oh, I'll just use this.
See, natural progression.
It's true, I suppose. I don't know. I think I sometimes other people have told me, other than just the two of you, that I've always been doing this and like sometimes I can't remember that to be true. I don't know why. Like, to me, it seems like this is such a concrete thing that I like began, and obviously has, you know, morphed and grown and changed over the years. But you know, people from that I knew in high school were like, "Oh yeah, this is the same stuff you've always been saying," and I'm like, "Was it? I don't know. I don't remember." But
yeah, it's just a matter of like formalizing it. right? And
Right.
really forming a business and putting things down on paper and on social media. And it's just, but for people who knew you, you know, prior to the official founding of SmartGlamour, I think that's just what it feels like. It was just maybe formalized when you started the company.
Yeah. That's interesting. So when we talk about fashion in general, I mean, you know, y'all are mentioning that, or Meredith, you said that I've been doing it since 0 because I've always been interested in fashion. But I would say that your two's interest in fashion has morphed and changed perhaps over your lifetime.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, okay. Well, I'll get more specific. So, you know, Stefanie specifically, you know, you had a lot. You used to have a lot of. Have a lot of rules. You used to have a lot of rules about what you would wear and what you wouldn't wear.
Yeah.
And even just recently, when you and I were talking about what you were going to model for spring, you started listing the things from spring that you like the most, and I was like, who is talking to me right now? I don't understand. What? So I mean, what, like, you know, what were your feelings towards fashion when you were younger, and how have they changed now that you're an adult?
I imagine everybody everywhere has, right, these feelings that are vastly different from the time they're 7 to 15 to 21 to 35. Like, I think it's probably, you know, the way that many things in your opinion on everything in the world probably morphs. You know, this is not dissimilar from that. I know that when I was younger, especially when I was a teenager, I was really like uncomfortable with my own body and embarrassed by my body. So I did tend to wear like really baggy t-shirts and athletic clothes. You know, some of it sticks around. Like, I had this real aversion to wearing anything with buttons or snaps or anything like that. And there are still remnants of that. Like, I do not wear button-down shirts. I don't like denim jackets. And I do think there's kind of a textural component to that and the feel of metal on my skin. I also will not pierce anything. Just those things still are just.
No necklaces?
No, not.
Except for very special occasions?
No, like linked necklaces, right? If it's made out of like a rope or like.
Meredith should have just made the necklaces out of ropes.
I can't explain it, but I can just tell you, like, also when you think about like bracelets, I'll wear like a bangle or a solid chunk of metal, but I don't like the feeling of a chain of metal on my skin.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Some people have sensory things.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. I'm sure, yeah, if I was a child growing up now, that would, you know, be something that maybe somebody identified and said, oh, she's got sensory things that affect her, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I just don't think that was anything that we thought about when I was a kid, but probably is true.
Yeah. That makes sense. I guess to me, I mean, to me, it seemed much more like I dress sporty all the time versus then now I feel like I see obviously a much more varied version of your style, but also like still completely surprising me. I feel like sometimes I try to guess what things y'all are gonna like, and like I can usually guess Meredith a lot easier than you.
I think really frequently though. Like I don't know. There are like pieces of your clothing line this year that probably last year would have been like, no, that's not for me. I don't know that there's a reason for it, right? I just think everybody's tastes change, and one year to the next, I have different opinions about things.
And Meredith, you kind of acted like, no, your relationship to fashion has not changed. Was that the face you were making when I first posed this question?
Oh, it was a sarcastic face, though. I mean,
because it has.
It was a sarcastic no. Because, well, so I feel like younger me wasn't so much into, I don't think I've ever been into mainstream fashion, right? I think younger me, as a kid, I like to wear, like as a kid, I like to wear skirts a lot. And I don't know how much of that was mom putting me in skirts and how much of that was me like liking to dress up for school. I really don't know. Right. But then as like an adolescent, teenager, I was influenced much more heavily by the artists that I liked, musical artists primarily. So I was a bit more into like, I guess, alternative fashion, maybe. Like I would follow like Shirley Manson from Garbage or Gwen Stefani or Alanis Morissette or any of those female rockers in the 90s. And I would emulate my style after them, just as a way of my own identity extension, I guess. And then it evolved into, well, now I have to go to college and get a job, so I have to dress appropriately to accomplish my goals. And then it became, then going through the transition into motherhood, you kind of become very, not that you aren't aware of your body anyway, but you become very aware of your body when you're growing another human. And I would say that I transitioned a little bit more into being more conservative because I kind of thought there was a way you were supposed to dress. So in an interesting way, I would say SmartGlamour kind of came along at like a really pivotal time for me, because right around the time when my kids were like 1 and 3, and I probably was about to fall into like a rut of, you're a mom now, you have to cover your stomach and, you know, wear mom clothes appropriate for your age. And yeah, I should have done
mom clothes.
Mom clothes. You know, you came out and were like, no, you can wear a crop top still. And you could, I mean, like you got me to wear my first ever 2-piece, not tankini, but you know, like bikini, like, and I don't, if you hadn't been making clothes for everybody at that juncture in my life, I probably would have been wearing mom bathing suits and stuff. Mom. So now I've really just embraced who I am and wear whatever the heck I want. And who cares? And I try to encourage my friends to do the same thing. Because they're kind of like, oh no, I can't wear anything too revealing. And I'm like, if you want to, you can. I would never make anybody do that, but why can't you? Like, can't is the wrong word.
Right.
So
well, that makes me happy. Yeah, that's a weird thing, but I mean, you know, I feel like that's a whole much bigger separate conversation about moms and women. And I talked to back my episode with Tia, we talked about that a little bit, and about how society polices women's bodies and then polices them even more when they have children. But nobody's really doing that to dads.
Well, they're starting to do it to dads like differently. There are dads that feel pressure to have the perfect, it's not the same. It's not as extreme, but there are dads that feel the pressure to have the perfect dad bod. Which is a silly thing, I know, but I know a couple of dads that are like, oh, if my beer gut is too big, that's no good. Like, right? It's weird. They do, but it's nowhere near the same. It's just, I do think it's there I wouldn't dismiss it completely. That's all.
Right. No. Yeah. I mean, I think in general, so much of why women and feminine people feel, very generally more negative about themselves is you have to think about that there's like decades of advertising and all this crap that's been pushed on us specifically. So like I agree that that has started to happen recently more towards men. I think especially as like people, human nature, society has evolved over the years, and basically trace everything just back to like money and advertising. People realize that like, oh, we can also make men feel insecure and they'll buy things. And so they started, running with that more towards like targeted male ads, and like all that stuff builds up, right? And like back when we did Miracle Mom Bods, that campaign, that was because that's when Dad Bod, that phrase was created. And commentary on that, but at the same time, I mean, that honestly is not surprising. It makes complete sense to me that like we created a standard for a dad, so like now if people feel they're not meeting that standard, then they're going to feel bad about themselves, even if that standard is like quote unquote average.
Right. But I've literally had dad friends express to me that they are uncomfortable either because they're a little bit too overweight or because they're a little bit too fit, and they're like insecure either way. And I have literally had to say to them, no, don't go there. You are wonderful as you are. Your worth is not tied into your appearance, right? Like I've had to have these conversations with them, and they've come back to me and this has happened more than once, and they've come back to me a couple days later. I'm like, I'm really glad you said that to me. I wasn't having anybody tell me that nobody was affirming that I am fine how I am. And I was like, well, you are. Like, why? It was weird. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I live in a weird town. I know I live in a weird town. So,
I mean, I'm glad to say that they felt like they could talk to you about it though, because, I'm sure
my friend was just thinking, but where are these men that
talk
enough to talk about their body?
They are the men that I go hiking with or work out with. Right?
I guess
it's not just happening at a general play date. It's people that I'm already have a relationship, we're close and comfortable with each other. And we go hiking or we go kayaking or we do activities together during the day without children while the kids are at school.
Yeah, and right? in environments that are focused on, in some ways, your
physical
body,
activity.
Whether it's just fitness or for some of them it might be appearance, right? You're in environments where that's the focus. So I can see how that conversation might.
And I'm pretty sure at least one of those conversations, alcohol was involved. So
so that probably
there's that too. Yeah.
So that's super interesting. And I also think that how you mentioned that some of them feel like maybe they're too big, but then also some of them feel like they're too fit, which is so specifically interesting to me, because all that does is further prove that like it's just about whatever the standard is, right? It's like not. And that's just based in nothingness. It's based in like what advertisers and media and all that decided, like this is the thing that you're supposed to be. So if you're not that, you're incorrect. And it doesn't actually matter what that thing is. Like there's no actual hierarchy. We made it up.
These also all happen to be dads that are more in a similar situation to me, like they are stay-at-home dads or part-time working dads, or right, like they're not necessarily the big breadwinners, so they're also not fitting that stereotypical standard. So they have those things. They're all going to be mad. I hope they don't watch this, because they're going to be like, "Why are you telling people this?" But
I hope you tag them in this when it gets.
First of all, you haven't said their names. We don't know who they are.
I have not.
I don't know who they are.
No, I know. But if they watch this, they'll be like, stop. Why? They'll know that I'm talking about them. But Fine.
Well, no one else does. Dudes. Just you.
I don't mean to feed into your insecurity. You're all wonderful.
Well, yeah. That's the point, right?
So, society sucks.
Yeah, sometimes. Big chunks of it definitely do. But I mean, I don't know. I think it's good. I'm glad that they talked to you about it, and I think it is possible to like reframe those things for people in their minds, you know, even just to like give people reminders. Like recently, I just got frustrated, quite honestly, by talking to somebody who kept apologizing for themselves to me. And it's not, I don't get frustrated really at the person, because like I think a step further to like why do they feel like they need to apologize to me about these things? And some of the things they were apologizing to me for, like I also was in the same state, but sometimes people don't realize that. Like they're saying like, oh, sorry, I don't have any makeup on. Oh, sorry, I haven't got my hair cut in a year. I'm like, I also have no makeup on and I didn't get my hair cut in a year. So like I don't feel a need to apologize for that. As what? It's not that my presentation shouldn't be offensive to other people, and if it is, I don't care. But anyway, all that to say that I posted like a Facebook status about that, like, please stop apologizing for yourselves, you're fine. And like, you know, I expected people to, you know, like the post and whatever, but like the amount of people who were like, I really needed to hear this reminder. And then I put a similar version, but cleaned up a little bit on SmartGlamour's Instagram. And a lot of people did the same thing. They messaged me and were like, I really need to hear this today. So I think it's a good reminder that sometimes even the things that like you might have already learned, or quote unquote, whatever, you know, people still need to be reminded of those things. And like, sometimes you saying it, yeah, and like, and you saying it as somebody that they like or follow or enjoy or know, can be helpful, you know, like those guys are your friends and so they value your opinion. So you being able to say that to them was probably, you know, helpful and hopefully more meaningful than, you know, some weird commercial trying to sell them, I don't know what, some crap.
Every time you guys do air quotes, I sing Little Bunny Foo Foo in my head. It's like every time I see it now, it just starts and I'm like, nope, don't laugh.
Well, now we know why you're laughing next time.
I'm not laughing at what you're saying. It's just for some reason, it's like I just see a little bunny like hopping across the screen. Yeah.
Okay.
So while you were both answering your fashion question, the next thing I was going to ask was if SmartGlamour had anything to do with any of your evolving thoughts on these things. With Meredith, you answered before I could ask it. Stefanie, did any of SmartGlamour's creation have anything to do with your evolving fashion opinions?
Yeah, yes and no. I struggle to answer this question because I still don't feel like I have like any grand fashion opinions. I'm very much of the mind where it's just like, oh, I like that today. Oh, I like that today.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think
that's why you're hard to predict. Yeah.
I think, you know, there are pieces from SmartGlamour that like I'm, especially when I model for you, that I may not have picked for myself. And then I wind up liking them.
Mm-hmm.
Does it make me say, okay, so like I can tell you the best example of this is the right wiggle dress that I'm wiggle dress. Did you intentionally make that hard to say, right? Like, I probably couldn't tell you the name of most of your clothes.
I'm surprised you remember the name of that.
But because you made it for me and I was like, ooh, I'm gonna wear that, okay. And then I put it on, I was like, this is like the best dress I've ever put on my life. I love it. And so did it then say to me, I now like this specific type of dress. No, like I don't think it influenced any grand ideas, but if nothing else, it opened my eyes to recognizing that I might not know if I like something until I put it on, or just, opening my eyes to the possibility of looking at different categories of things,
Well, I think that's a grand idea to me.
Yeah.
Just that like, not stopping yourself before you have a chance to try something, or even if you just still don't decide to try it on, just not putting the block up in the first place, Like I remember when I had my store in 2015, and I mean, I did specifically do this to Meredith, but I did it to a lot of people who came in and saw the Joan dress with the little cutout and would go, oh, I can't wear that. I can't do that. And I was like, oh, well, it's your lucky day. You're going to try it on. And I would only do that to people who seemed like they would be open to me suggesting that, not to somebody who doesn't even want to have a conversation with me. But that was a very magical space where most people who came in like really wanted to like talk to me and have my opinion and whatnot. So I would have people try it on, and I would just be like, listen, I really truly have to believe me. I don't care if you buy this or not. I would just like you to put it on, because if you're coming in and saying, I can't do this, like the best way to jump past that is to try it. And even if you then go, you know what, I know I was right, this isn't for me, great, at least now you know, but you didn't just chop it off before you made the attempt. That's
a hard lesson to learn, just in general. It's a hard lesson to teach. Well, you have to try things, and it's really hard, and trying is way harder than doing. I think, because it's scary, because it's a little unknown, right? Anytime something's a little unknown or represents any kind of a change, people are hesitant, I think.
Yeah, and I think specifically when we're talking about clothing stuff, but also probably in a lot of areas, that's tied into like,
I know I'm going grander, but yes, but also
that's fine. That's fine.
But also with clothes, yeah.
It's just it's often tied into like an insecurity feeling, because what's behind the fear of not wanting to try it, right, is the fear of the reaction of what's going to happen if I do try it and I don't like it, or I look ugly, or if we're not talking clothes, I fail at this thing and whatever. That's all tied back to the same kind of thing, right? That like somehow those negative, quote unquote, negative responses then say something about who you are, when they don't. You're still the same person.
Yeah.
The things that matter about us are not whether or not we put a dress on and like the way it looks.
I would also go back a little bit and say, I just had it. So you can't just dismiss something just because without a reason, right? Like, just to go back to the dress, the specific dress you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
I have a friend who absolutely knows this about herself, that she does not like the feeling of air on her stomach.
Okay, yeah.
And this dress has a cutout right where your stomach is. So she might say, well, she might have walked into your store and say, I can't wear that to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then instead of, I know you would be more sensitive to this, but you wouldn't immediately say, well, guess what, you're going to try it on. You would maybe say, well, why do you say that?
Yeah.
And in her case, she would know. She would say, because I cannot stand the feeling of air on my stomach, right?
Right. And I would be like, oh, fair. Gotcha.
Right. But you can't just say, I could not wear that dress. And then you say, well, why do you say that? And then the person just is like, I don't know. I just don't think it would look great. I just can't. Like, that's not.
Yeah.
If that's where you need to go the extra step and think about your whys.
Right. And honestly, most people don't even say, because I don't think it will look good on me. They will just say like, I can't, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or like,
You'd be like, I don't have the stomach for that. It's like,
right, or that, yeah.
But-
You have a stomach, right? You have a body part. You can physically put it on, so I think you're okay. That's I mean, that's a similar to thing, right, to Stephanie saying like she's a texture thing. She doesn't like having like snaps and buttons. Like, if I had something that had snaps and buttons, and for whatever reason she came in and was like audibly said like, I can't wear that, and I said why, and she'd be like, oh, I have this weird texture thing, I don't like buttons. So I'm like, okay, great,
Okay, yeah,
no problem.
That's a lot. Knowing something is about yourself is a lot different than assuming the worst without even giving it a go.
Yeah.
Make a decision based on what you think other people will think.
Right.
That too.
Knowing it about yourself is okay. That's valid.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's usually the thought pattern of like, if I put this on, what will other people think? If they see me doing it,
Yeah.
And I think the willingness to put that on, or the willingness to try something new, actually says more about that person and their character. I know this is more in relation to my job, right? So coaching volleyball, I talk all the time with my young athletes about the need to step outside your comfort zone and do something different if you want to make change. If you want to become better at a specific skill, if you just sit there and do it the way you've been doing it for a year, you're not going to get better at it. And a lot of times they're like, well, I'm going to look like a fool in front of my teammates because I'm going to try it this way and it's not going to work, or I'm going to miss the ball. And we talk about, okay, but what's your goal here? Is your goal to get better at volleyball? Yes. So are you willing to take the risk of maybe messing up and looking silly or something like that to get better at volleyball? And then, we talk about it as a team, right? And everybody's like, well, I'm not going to laugh at you because I'm trying it too. And I know I'm going to look silly. And so I think it speaks volumes about, the character of the young women that I'm in the gym with, that they're like, okay, cool. I don't care about looking like a fool. This is about me and my growth and getting better at a sport that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. And I feel like that's, I mean, honestly, something that hopefully that they can, continue on and apply to other things in their life is like, remember, like, what is my goal by doing this thing, and does my fear about trying to do this thing have anything to do with my goal or not? And like, does it even matter? What's, that's kind of something that I suggest a lot when people will interview me or something and they'll ask me, for my advice to people about, body image related things in general. And the thing that I always say is, and I kind of attribute it to just being more of like a logical problem solving type of person, but maybe that's not true. I don't know. That like, I like to keep going deeper and keep asking myself, like, why am I worried about this? Why do I feel this way? Where did I learn this thought pattern? Who has presented this thought pattern to me? Do I care about that person or thing or entity or organization, whatever? Do I like, does their opinion actually hold weight to me when I break it all the way down? And sometimes doing that helps in lots of situations. Okay, so back to mom stuff in general, maybe. I know Meredith, you kind of touched on like being a mom and feeling like you have to dress a certain way, and SmartGlamour helping you feel that way. And then you also asked Stefanie, or not feel that way, and you asked Stefanie if, thinking that modeling in front of Hertlein was an important thing to do. And then Stefanie, you also mentioned, being very specific about how you talk about your body in front of her. And I'm just curious if you had further thoughts on kind of like the thing that all of those things circle around, like modeling positive body thoughts in front of your children when, as we mentioned, even in the dad bod conversation, you know, so much of media and mainstream society might be trying to feed them other things.
So for me, it has a lot to do with their personalities, a little bit in a way. I worry this is going to sound backwards. I worry more about my almost 8-year-old son than I do about my now 10-year-old daughter. And part of that is that she is like a very practical, you guys know, serious child. I hear none of the drama that goes on in school. I ask her, like, is anything interesting happening in your like social circles? And she's just like, I don't know, Mom, I just go to school. But my son, who's in 2nd grade and she's in 4th grade, he will come home and tell me, it's like I'm talking to Mallory when she was a kid. He'll tell me all of the stories about all of the people in his class.
I was like, I don't know where that's going.
Because you used to tell us all of the stories about all of the people. But he'll just tell me so-and-so like so-and-so, or somebody's got a boy. They're in 2nd grade. They don't have boyfriends and girlfriends, but he talks about it like they do. And he's just plugged in to what everybody else in his grade is saying. And my point is that he is aware of everything going on around him. And I feel like my daughter is not, because I know that there's other 4th grade girl drama because I am friends with their mothers and I have heard things. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't hear anything about that from her. And I'll ask her about it and she'll say, I don't know what you're talking about. So she's just, it's not that she's not aware of her surroundings, but it's just, that type of stuff does not interest her. And like, somehow people talking about other people just goes in one ear out the other, right? So similarly, I don't really worry about her taking the superficial messages from advertising and videos and movies and stuff, because I don't think she focuses on that stuff. I think she focuses more on the content. Of course, all that said, as you guys know, they both just had a dance recital. And you saw the beautiful picture of her in her dance costume. And this is the first time that her dance costume gives the illusion of being strapless.
Oh, yeah.
And her shoulder, it was perfectly tasteful. It was beautiful. But her shoulders were completely bare. And she was uncomfortable.
Oh.
When she first put it on.
Did she like explain why or say why? She
was just I could just tell because I'm her mom, but she was a little bit like this, right? Like she just kind of put it on. I was like this, and I was like, what's wrong? And she was like, it's very. And I was like, you look beautiful. It fits perfectly. You have nothing to worry about. And she needed that little bit of extra reassurance, and then she was fine with it. But like, it was something she was very aware of. Just because it's not a part of her body that's typically exposed. This collarbone area, right? She usually has on a normal just t-shirt. or a leotard that has sleeves. That's like her uniform for dance, right? I lost where I was going with this.
You're more
That-
your son, right?
But I mean, also like it's very easy to have a conversation with her and be very direct and just say, that's just what your shoulders look like. You're good. And she, maybe because she's very logical and right, she just takes that and says, oh, okay. And then goes out and does her thing. Right. Whereas my son, we haven't had many body conversations yet, but he's a bit pickier about what he wears and how it feels He constantly is feeling the inside of his shirt or the inside of his pants to see if it's soft enough. So he's just, I don't know, those things affect him more. But he's also not in 4th grade yet, and so he's not really at the level of, like, I think he and I are going to have interesting conversations when he hits middle school and things start to change. You know?
For her too.
Yeah.
Not to, I don't mean this to come across to sound like parenting advice, but like when you tell the story about your daughter, it reminds me of me, because I'm like, that was me. Like, I didn't run with any popular social groups, or like I feel like I didn't really pay attention to any of the drama, and I know there was a lot of drama all the way through, you know, whatever, late elementary school, middle school, high school. But I was still really aware of my body and it changing, and it was really uncomfortable. And there are moments that I can still pinpoint from when I was a teenager and that was happening. I can picture clothes that I wore, like very specific articles of clothing that I wore because I was trying to hide the fact that my body was changing, or I just didn't want any kind of attention drawn to that. Meredith, you had a boyfriend who I can still remember a comment that he made to me when I was at that stage. He made a comment, I think he made it to you, but I was there, and said that I should probably be starting to wear a bra. I can tell you who it was. I won't do it now, but like, it's a very vivid memory.
I don't remember it, but I can guess who it was.
Yeah. And
Me too.
Yeah. It's a really, really vivid memory for me. And it's like, as a parent now, when I think about, and obviously we're still a ways off, being that my daughter's 5, but like, being aware of comments that people are making about her body and around her and things that she can hear. Even now, something as small as she picks out her clothes and she puts on a pair of pink and green polka dot pants and then an orange and purple striped shirt. And I'm like, whoop, that's a bold choice. But like, you know, and her father will bring up things and be like, that doesn't match. That looks crazy. And it's, you're right. It doesn't match in the, you know, terms of like, they're not the same colors, but do you like it? And she's like, yeah. And it's like, cool. So it's like, I feel like I'm constantly trying to just be aware of anything that's being said around her and try to reframe it, right? I'm not going to scold anybody for saying something like that. I mean, he's right. They don't match, you know, and maybe it's a conversation we'll have later, but I don't blame him. I look at it and do the same thing. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. Good for you. But like,
I mean, we've been doing that for years. In a way, we've been doing the opposite, because when she does pick out her clothes, she's gone back to picking out her clothes because I got tired of it. And I was like, you have to pick out your clothes. You're 10, pick out your own clothes. But when I would pick out her clothes, if it didn't match perfectly, and I'm talking like green pants, green shirt, green socks, like all green. It didn't really matter if it was the same green, but it all had to be the same color, right? She really wanted it to all, that's just her style, right? So she definitely always kind of had that. So she's already kind of, you know, she's twice your daughter's age, right? So I don't, we've been doing that for a while. To go back to the costume example, after she was all dressed and her hair done and everything, we went downstairs. I said, go look in the mirror, go show daddy, which the mirror happened to be where he was. So she went and looked in the mirror, and she was looking in the mirror, and she was like, oh, wow, I look really beautiful. And she felt beautiful. And he looked at me and he went, when did the costumes get so sophisticated? And I was like, good word choice.
Yeah.
And I just said, well, she's getting older now. This is more appropriate for the level of dance that she's doing, right? And we just moved on from there, and she was happy. I don't really, you know, but we've been practicing what you're preaching for just as long, right? And I don't know, I feel like, or at least in our household, some of that has taken root, and he knows better than to say, what's going on? How come how come her shoulders are out? How come
Right.
it's strapless, right? And he,
And I mean, I'm just gonna say that stuff does what y'all are both doing and saying that it does make a big difference, especially, Stefanie, like with her putting on something a little wackadoo and you just letting her do it. I mean, I know that mom thought I looked bananas a lot of the time, but she always let me leave the house how I wanted, as long as obviously I was like physically covered. But that matters. It still matters to me now. I still remember the fact that, like, even though I would like cut things up and put them back together in questionable ways sometimes, and then be like, this is what I'm wearing to school, and she'd be like, oh wow, okay, but let me do it, even in and honestly sometimes even in the face of me knowing that she didn't personally like it, but let me do it anyway. That matters, because that taught me that the way that I look is my decision.
Mm-hmm.
And like that makes a huge difference, I think. So
I will say, as parents of little ones, a friend of mine has the very practical point of view of they can wear whatever they want as long as it is appropriate for the weather. Like, she won't let them run outside in freezing degree temperatures in shorts and a tank top. But even if that's what they want to wear, she would suggest ways to make it more weather appropriate. Like, maybe put some leggings on under the shorts so your legs aren't cold, or maybe you're not cold now, but take this sweater just in case.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like, she'll do things like that. She won't influence their style, but she will try to protect their health.
Yeah.
Let's not get frostbite. Right.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, especially because kids don't think about that stuff.
Putting them in environments where they're getting that same language and support is important too. I think of this in a couple ways. I think of it, at her nursery school. I know that the teachers there do a wonderful job of reinforcing that. There's a little boy who often comes to school in a dress, and it's just what he does. And every little kid, they don't even notice it. Like the other day, we walked in, and she was wearing actually the dress that you made her for her birthday. It had unicorns on it. And he was also wearing a unicorn dress. And it was really exciting that they both had on unicorn dresses. And that was it, right?
Oh, I love it.
And so, yeah, I like that she's in an environment like that. And you can't always control that, because especially, when it comes to public school and things like that, you get what you get based on where you live, and you try to pick where you live, hopefully accordingly. But you can't predict every environment that she's going to be in. But I also think it's important when you're enrolling kids in youth sports or performing arts or any extracurricular activities, that's maybe a question that you're asking of the people who run it, right? I mean, what are your views on, if this comes up, how do you handle it? Mm-hmm. And we could get into a whole other conversation about, because Meredith mentioned the standard for as she gets older and the movement that she makes when she's dancing. But like, why is that the standard? That person could wear long sleeves the same way a little kid could wear long sleeves. Right. I think about it a lot in the sport that I coach, because we wear short, tight spandex. Mm-hmm. That's standard for volleyball. Beach volleyball, women wear little bikinis, and some of it has rationale behind it, but I think you could have a whole conversation discussing all of these things and what that standard does. Does it push people away from the sport who might otherwise have tried it because they're not comfortable? Mm-hmm. And so, I think about, I always love and welcome the questions from the parents who come to enroll their children in my youth sports organization that are like, what's your policy on the inclusion of trans athletes? Mm-hmm. I would much rather them ask that question. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important for parents to do that and just make sure the environments that you're putting your kids in are as supportive as can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
our school district's great. Go ahead.
No,
I didn't really have a full thought.
Oh,
I was just going to say, our school district, we're in the public school district now, right? Like, we got to choose our nursery school because that was private, but then once they hit kindergarten and above, it's all public. And I would say that our district is wonderful, but what you can't control are the families that go there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certainly in this town a mix of different ideas and everything. And the teachers are wonderful at how they handle how the kids interact with each other. Like everyone is always accepted for who they are
Mm-hmm.
and who they want to be. And if there happens to be a child that comes in who has learned differently elsewhere, it's handled well, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the important part of it, is that you know that about your school district. You've either done
Right.
talk to people.
Right. Yeah. It's something I think about too with their dance school, because it is for lack of a better word, more traditional, strict dance school. And the owners are older, and and ballet in particular has very much always been, it used to be, it's like still, it's trying to break through right now, right?
Yeah.
There are some big breakthrough ballet dancers out there. But it is also still very much like you're supposed to look a certain way to be a ballet dancer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a little worried about it, but so far they've been amazing about letting the kids be who they want to be. They do dictate exactly what they have to wear, but that's like, everybody has to wear the same color leotard, and that just delineates which level you're at. And actually, when you get to the higher levels, as long as it's black, it doesn't even matter what it looks like. It just has to be a black leotard, but you can choose whatever black leotard you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it is that they listen to their parents. And I think they've evolved over the years. And so any concerns I might have had when they were younger, I'm not really worried about anymore, because I know that if ever a situation comes up that I'm uncomfortable with, all I have to do is go talk to them, and they're open to learning and evolving. Even if they're open to learning, even if they haven't learned it yet. I don't obviously
They're open to listening and growing.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Even if they're still a little bit in a different mindset, they're open to.
Mm-hmm.
You can't tell them the right way to teach ballet, but you can explain to them. They were willing to have discussions about who can take the ballet classes, and it's become very open. Even I've seen it even more just in the 7 years we've been there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And their son is becoming more proactive. As I've seen him take a bigger role. And so he's a more open-minded individual anyway.
Mm. That helps. What I was going to say, Meredith, is that I remember.
Sorry.
It's okay. I don't know if you remember telling me this story, and I don't remember the specifics of it, but one of the times I had a pop-up in Croton, you were like, "Oh, I have to tell you, you're going to be so proud of Annalise that like someone in school was feeling uncomfortable about wearing something." And
Yep.
Annalise like shut it down, like was like, "You don't have to worry about that."
She shut it down.
You remember that story?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what year it was.
It wasn't that long ago.
I think maybe she was in second grade, and there was another little girl in her class who really liked wearing dresses to school and really liked like dressing very feminine. And I guess some of the kids would I don't know if they would tease her, but they would definitely comment on the fact that, "Oh, she's got a dress on again," right? Like just say, "Oh, you always wear dresses. Why don't you wear something else someday?" Right? And so this little girl was starting to feel like, well, maybe I shouldn't wear dresses all the time, and maybe there's something wrong with that. And Annalise was like, "No, you wear whatever you want." And she was like, who cares what everybody else thinks? You wear what you want. And yeah, and I heard about that, and that struck a chord with the little girl. The little girl went home and told her mother, who I'm friends with, and that's how I heard all about it. I didn't hear about it from my daughter.
Right.
I heard, and I asked her about it. I said, so I heard about this thing that happened in school this week, and you told her it was okay to wear whatever she wants. And she was like, what? Oh, yeah, sure, that happened. Like, it wasn't even a blip on her radar. It was just it was so obvious to her that you should get to wear whatever you want that she was just like, well, yeah, duh. Of course. I told her that she should wear whatever she wants. And I was like, oh, well, I'm very glad that you stood up for her. That was good. And she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, she didn't feel like she had done anything extraordinary.
Yeah.
Which is another reason why I don't really worry about her. Mm-hmm. Because she's already kind of got all of this ingrained.
Yeah.
I feel like she's got a really solid foundation to grow from, even though I know adolescence is going to be scary, and and bodily changes and stuff are going to affect her. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're going to affect her because she's worried about what other people think.
Mm-hmm.
I think they will affect her because they're going to affect her, because it's an emotional, highly charged time. But I also think she's going to be comfortable talking to me about it if she feels she needs to. Mm-hmm. And I think that she will be able to talk through it with me when the time comes.
Right.
Because she definitely knows that I'm willing to talk about it, because I tried to talk about it now, and she's like, Mom. She's like, I know all this stuff already. And I'm like, okay, well, just when you're ready, I'm here. And she's like, I know you're here.
She's so funny.
No, but yeah.
So towards the end of all these podcasts, I usually ask people to give some kind of like a gem of positive thoughts or inspiration in relation to like what they do, because I'm usually talking to people more about what they do, which is not what we talked about, so that's fine. So I'm trying to think of a way to rephrase that so it makes more sense with the stuff that we talked about. So maybe Stefanie, if you could say something about like deciding to do something out of your comfort zone, and like, that's definitely something that you didn't used to do, and now you've decided to do that. So like, what would you have to say to somebody who maybe is nervous?
I think, I feel like I can kind of tie the two things together, actually, because, mm-hmm. I mentioned earlier that one of my positions at Bard is I'm the senior woman administrator, and that position was created by the NCAA for all colleges and university athletic departments and athletic conferences, to promote meaningful representation of women in a traditionally male-dominated field of college athletics. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's really important to A, step outside your comfort zone, and B, try to like make waves in arenas that may not be traditionally meant for, there they go, meant for So I think it's to get involved, in areas that are not traditionally dominated by women, or by, however you identify. Somebody like you is there. Be the first person that's there, because you can be a role model for somebody else who's feeling the same way, who also feels excluded, or maybe originally feels like they can't do it, but because they can see somebody else in that role, they now recognize that that's available to them.
Yeah. Love that. And actually that just gave me a thought for Meredith's question. So circling back to the beginning, when you were saying, when we're talking about modeling, and you're saying that you role model things for other people, maybe yours can be tailored to like advice for other parents who may be trying to get more involved, or maybe they're already involved in volunteering things, or like, you know, being in charge of groups of children, and they want to, you know, be a good role model to them, and especially, and like also like to children that aren't just their children. What are some thoughts that you might have about like good, positive ways to role model different things to younger folks?
I mean, the best way to be a good role model is to just, I don't want to just say just do it, but like, you know, if you are, if you have ideals that you want your children to embody and grow up with and believe in, then you have to also embody those ideas, and you know, you have to practice what you're preaching, right? So and if you're looking to volunteer more, just you step up and make it known that you want to, that you're around and available to help. And then and then be available to help. You know, make the space. And yeah, it's kind of just it's so trite, but be the change you want to see in the world. I mean, you know, like you're no. I mean, if you want to see something different, you have to act on making that difference.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Right?
And I mean, the thing about like feeling weird about saying cliches sometimes, or like, you know, quote unquote trite things.
I hope every time you do these podcasts from now on, anytime you do this, that's what you do.
Is that like, you know, they became cliches for a reason, right?
For a reason,
like,
yeah.
Because people kept saying them over and over and over. And that's what makes them cliche. But it's true though, like that if you want to instill certain values or morals or ideas onto other people, then, you know, most of the time actions speak louder than your words. You need to be doing them first.
Right.
And like true, you know, just truly actually believing in them and caring enough to make those points and make it visible to people, and especially to kids, because they're so like observant and really observe more than sometimes people think they do.
Yeah, kids see everything, whether you think they're watching you or not, whether you can tell that they're watching you or not, they're still watching you. So they see the people that are in their lives, and they see how they act, and they emulate themselves after those actions. So you can tell them things till you're blue in the face, but if you don't follow through on what you're saying, they're gonna follow through on your actions. They're not gonna listen to what you said.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
in the woods. Careful the things you do, children will listen.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for both doing this with me for my end of season 1 of the podcast. Do you, either of you, want people to follow you on the internet? And if so, where?
People can follow me on Instagram at, what is it? It's Minima102. I think I always forget.
Yeah.
I always forget if it has the 1 or 2 or not. Yeah. So I keep that public, and I keep my kids off of it for that reason. That's why I try to put them mostly just on my private stuff. But if people want to follow me, sure. It's not that exciting. It's mostly SmartGlamour stuff and workout videos.
Yeah. and stuff?
My, I don't really do much with my personal social media, but if anybody wants to give the club a follow, New York Elite Volleyball, we do some good stuff. I think the Instagram is New York Elite Volleyball, but it might just be New York Elite. I think it's the full thing.
I'll find it.
I think it has volleyball.
I
I think it has volleyball then.
Yeah, it's all. Yeah.
I'll find it and link it. Yeah, and if you're, what's the like? Would it just be like if you're in the Hudson Valley area that you could technically get there and sign up?
Yeah, Hudson Valley area. Yeah, anybody in the Hudson Valley, we do indoor and outdoor. Now that we're going to summer, we do a lot of outdoor programming, but that's me.
Yay.
I guess I could give a shout out to the other social media page I manage, but it's if you don't live in Croton and go to the Croton school districts, you're not going to want to follow it. But if you live in the Croton Harbin School District, come follow at CETPTA, because that's where you get all the good stuff.
Follow, subscribe for some sweet PT.
Because I know your followers are big. I know you got a lot of followers in Croton Harbin School District
who are already following the PTA.
Who are already following SmartGlamour and the CETPTA.
They're literally your friends.
Yeah.
All right.
That's the only other social media I manage.
Okay. Thank you, sisters. I appreciate you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. This was fun.
Okay.
Love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom.